Imagine for a second that you just hired a hyper-productive, just absolute genius of a new executive.
Okay.
You sit them down on day one, right? And you give them full, unrestricted access to your company's bank accounts. You hand over the keys to all your most sensitive customer data, all the internal strategy documents.
Sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Right. Because, get this, you don't give them a job title. You don't assign them a manager, and you don't lay out a single rule for how they're actually supposed to make decisions on behalf of the company.
I mean, that would just be organizational malpractice. You'd have the SEC or, your board of directors knocking on your door by lunchtime.
Exactly.
No rational business leader would ever do that with a human being.
And yet that is the exact dynamic playing out in thousands of companies with artificial intelligence right now.
Yeah, it really is.
Businesses are just handing out these incredibly powerful digital tools, these AI co-pilots, to everyone in the organization. They're building absolutely zero foundational structure underneath them. And then, well, they act completely surprised when it doesn't magically transform their bottom line.
It's wild.
It is. So welcome to this special deep dive for Red Hawk Technologies. Today, we're tearing into the latest issue of their newsletter, Streamline and Scale. Specifically, we're looking at Volume 2, Issue 13, which is titled The 5 Layers of an AI Operating System.
And this is just such a critical read because it attacks a massive paradigm shift head-on.
Right.
The fundamental argument here is that we have to stop looking at AI as just, a shiny new tool that you adopt to draft your emails a little faster.
Yes, not just a fancy autocomplete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you want scalable enterprise-grade value, AI is an operating system that you must deliberately build. And specifically, Red Hawk calls this Transform OS. If you just sprinkle AI co-pilots across your workforce without this foundation, you are basically guaranteeing failure.
So to understand the actual architecture of this AI operating system, we first have to talk about the mindset required to build it.
Yeah, the psychology of it.
The newsletter highlights a piece by Ryan Frederick, and it centers on a classic Navy SEAL saying, which is, slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Which is the perfect antidote to the sheer panic we are seeing in the enterprise market right now.
Oh, totally. People are freaking out.
Every single week there's a new language model dropped or, a new must-have feature announced. And that external pressure makes leaders mistake frantic activity for actual progress.
Yep.
They fall into these common traps simply because they're terrified of being left behind.
Right. So they chase the latest tools, they drive disconnected adoption across 5 different departments, and they treat simple employee usage as a measure of ROI.
Right, exactly.
It's that, hey, our team used the chatbot 50 times today. We are an AI-driven company mentality.
Or they celebrate one isolated pilot program as if it proves the entire enterprise has been transformed.
Yeah, problem solved, right?
But all of that is just forcing AI through the organization as another generic, fragmented IT project. And it happens because leadership is asking the wrong question from the very beginning.
What are they asking?
They're asking, how are we using AI?
Right. Okay. Let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because the real question they need to ask is, what can we become with AI?
Exactly.
And that completely changes your time horizon. It moves you away from just slapping tools onto old problems. It's like buying a bunch of expensive, flashy gym equipment and just scattering it around the office.
Yeah, hoping people just magically get fit.
Exactly. Rather than actually designing a cohesive fitness program, you can buy all the treadmills you want. But without a program, you aren't going anywhere.
Right.
So the slow is smooth approach means sitting down and designing the program first.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, going slow in the AI space simply means taking the time up front to govern, secure, and integrate your systems.
Right.
You build a foundation so that you can scale much, much faster later. And by later, we aren't talking about, a 5-year roadmap. We're talking about 6 months from now.
Wow. Okay. That's fast.
Once that foundation is solid, every new automated workflow you plug into the system just compounds in value.
Okay, so let's look at the actual engineering of that foundation. The architecture of Transform OS is broken down into 5 distinct layers.
5 layers, yeah.
Let's start with layer 1, which is the business design foundation. So this includes an accountability map, a strategic frame with priorities and metrics, and a decision register.
Oh.
But I have to challenge this right out of the gate.
Okay, go for it.
I read through layer 1, and it just sounds like good old-fashioned management hygiene. There is no AI here. We're the actual robots.
That is precisely the point. And it's why layer 1 is the layer that most companies completely ignore, to their own absolute detriment.
Wait, really? They just skip it?
all the time. Because if you drop a highly capable digital worker into an organization that has an ambiguous accountability map, you aren't creating efficiency, you are just automating confusion.
Because the AI doesn't know who is actually in charge of the process.
Exactly. Layer 1 forces you to define exactly who owns what. Every single business function needs a named owner. And it doesn't matter if that owner is a human being or an AI agent.
Okay, that makes sense.
The strategic frame gives every piece of work a reason to exist. Without defining the business design first, the AI has zero context for what it's supposed to be achieving or, whose authority it is actually operating under.
Right. It needs the job description and the reporting structure before you hire the worker, digital or otherwise.
Spot on.
So once you have those rules set, you need a place to store them. Which brings us to layer 2, the operating substrate.
The substrate, yes.
This is described as the governed memory and decision state that every agent works from. But, this isn't just a massive data lake where you dump a bunch of PDFs, right?
Far from it. A data lake is passive. You just throw things in there. The operating substrate is active and it's governed. Every single fact in this substrate carries an owner, and this is crucial, a freshness date.
Let's put this in the real world so you can picture it. Imagine a customer service agent handling a complex product return.
Okay.
Without this substrate, a basic AI chatbot is just blindly regurgitating a return policy it scraped from some internal wiki 3 months ago.
Right.
It doesn't know if that policy changed yesterday.
But with layer 2, the system doesn't just know the policy. It knows the exact date the policy was last updated, and it knows the name of the human who owns keeping that policy current.
Wow.
There's actually a mechanism built into this layer called a curiosity watch.
Curiosity watch. How does that actually function in practice?
Mechanically, the curiosity watch is constantly scanning the memory state for stale data.
Oh, like a Roomba for old facts.
Exactly. So if that return policy hasn't been updated in 6 months, the system actively pings the human owner, let's say the director of customer success, and asks, hey, is this fact still true? It maintains its own hygiene.
That is a massive difference from just querying a static document.
Huge difference.
And there's another key detail here. The entire substrate is model agnostic.
Which is so critical for protecting your business from vendor lock-in.
Right.
If you build your entire company's memory directly into a specific language model, and then tomorrow that vendor doubles their pricing, or they just go out of business.
After trapped.
You're completely trapped. But by keeping the operating state in layer 2, your memory is your own asset. You can swap the actual AI models in and out as the technology evolves without breaking your company's brain.
I love that phrase, breaking your company's brain. So layer 1 gives us the business rules, and layer 2 ensures the AI has perfect, continuously updated memory. But knowing the rules isn't the same as executing them safely. Like, if this digital worker actually tries to issue a cash refund, who stops it from accidentally draining the bank account? We need a way to orchestrate that action.
And that is layer 3, workflow orchestration. This is where work is coordinated and gated. The underlying philosophy here, and this is vital, is that autonomy is earned, not granted.
Earned, not granted. That is a fascinating way to phrase it.
Yeah.
But how does a piece of software actually earn autonomy mechanically?
It happens through what Red Hat calls trust tier.
Trust tiers?
Yeah, so when an automation is first launched, it's placed in a permanently constrained tier. It cannot make consequential moves on its own. It acts as an assistant.
So it's just drafting things.
Right, drafting the refund or preparing the email. But a named human has to actually review it and click approve before the action is taken.
Basically a human-in-the-loop system.
Exactly. But over time, as the system logs hundreds of these actions flawlessly, it builds a measurable track record. Once it proves its reliability against those layer 1 metrics, it can be promoted to a trust-gated tier.
Oh, I see.
In that tier, it handles the standard cases automatically and only escalates the anomalies to a human. The AI earns its independence through verified performance.
Which naturally leads us right into layer 4, the agent fleet.
Yes, the fleet.
This is where the AI stops just assisting and actually starts operating. These are your digital workers. They're called named role agents, meaning they have specific seats on that layer 1 accountability map we talked about.
They have actual jobs.
Exactly.
Okay.
But here's where it gets really interesting. There's a specific type of agent mentioned here that I just think is brilliant. The independent reviewer agent.
Oh, this completely changes the game for enterprise deployment.
It really does.
Right.
Because it brings a classic accounting principle right into the digital workforce.
Right.
Think about a standard accounting firm, right?
Mm.
A junior accountant can crunch the numbers and draft a tax return all day long, but they are absolutely forbidden from auditing their own spreadsheets. It violates the core principle of separation of duties, and the independent reviewer agent in Transform OS functions the exact same way. An AI agent cannot certify work that it authored itself. It requires an independent check.
Exactly. So if one agent drafts a proposal, a completely separate independent reviewer agent has to check that proposal against a fixed checklist before it ever ships.
It creates that structural enterprise trust. Because we are so used to the Wild West right now, where anonymous bots are just running loose and generating outputs with zero oversight.
It's terrifying.
It is. But here, every agent has a defined scope, a track record, and every piece of work is double-checked by a system that has no vested interest in the original output.
That separation of duties is how a CEO can actually sleep at night while an autonomous system is running their operations.
So the agents are doing the work, and they are doing it across Layer 5, which is a company footprint.
Right, Layer 5.
This is where the measurable value gets created: revenue, customer, operations, or enterprise functions. You start with one workflow, you prove it works in a single department, and then you expand upon that success.
That's the footprint.
But there is a massive caveat to all of this. You can have the business design, the memory, the orchestration, the agents, and the footprint. But if they aren't bound together, the whole thing just shatters the second it hits the real world.
You're talking about the governance and control plane.
Yes.
And what is so vital to understand here is that governance is not a sixth layer sitting on top of the other 5.
The newsletter uses a really evocative cake analogy for this, which I loved.
The batter versus frosting.
Yes. Governance isn't the frosting you slather on at the end of the project to make it look nice for the compliance team. Governance is a core ingredient baked directly into the batter of every single layer.
If it's not in the batter, you didn't bake the right cake. It's a control plane that runs continuously through the entire system.
Okay, so if the AI agents are the muscles of the company and the Layer 1 rules are the skeleton, this governance control plane is like the nervous system.
What's fascinating here is that that's a perfect way to look at it, because a nervous system doesn't have to wait for the brain to process a burn, right? It instinctively pulls your hand away from a hot stove.
Right.
The governance control plane operates the exact same way using something called drift detection.
Drift detection. Let's break down the mechanics of that. How does it actually know when to pull the hand away from the stove?
Well, it works by continuously comparing the AI's real-time outputs against the original strategic frame we built all the way back in Layer 1.
Okay, give me an example.
Let's say an agent is authorized to offer customers up to a 10% discount to prevent churn.
Normal customer service stuff.
Right. But due to some weird prompt interaction or a hallucination, the agent suddenly tries to offer a 50% discount. Yeah, big problem. But the control plane detects that mathematical deviation instantly. It doesn't send an email asking for permission. It immediately freezes that specific agent and flags it for human review long before that 50% discount ever reaches the customer.
Oh, wow. And it also maintains an immutable audit trail, right? Like recording exactly who did what, when, and why.
Constantly. And this is why baking governance into the batter prevents the ultimate nightmare scenario.
Which is what?
Well, there's a chilling statistic from Gartner mentioned in the newsletter. Gartner predicts that by 2027, 40% of enterprises will actually have to pull back or shut down their autonomous AI agents.
Wait, 40%?
40%.
That is nearly half the enterprise market actively going backward. Why?
Because they treated governance as frosting.
They just slapped it on at the end.
Exactly. They deployed the flashy agents first. They granted them autonomy without the track record to justify it. And the governance gaps only surfaced after something had already gone disastrously wrong in a live production environment.
That sounds incredibly expensive.
It is. But when you bake governance into the batter from day one, like Transform OS does, you bypass that completely. When a company deploys its 10th agent on this system, the compliance review isn't some massive hurdle. It's basically a formality, because that immutable audit trail has been generating natively since the very first workflow.
Okay, so we have laid out this massive 5-layer architecture. We've got the foundation, the memory, the orchestration, the agents, and the footprint, all held together by a real-time governance nervous system.
Yes.
But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go ahead.
If I'm an operations leader listening to this, I'm thinking, okay, this sounds like a 10-year, billion-dollar IT nightmare.
Oh, sure, it sounds huge.
Right. It sounds like something that requires an army of consultants living in my conference room for a decade.
Yeah.
Just to map out layer one. How on earth do you actually build this without paralyzing the company?
It's a very fair concern, but this is where we have to transition from the theory of the architecture to the reality of how it's actually delivered. The 5 layers of the architecture all hold equal weight. You cannot skip one. But the delivery model, how you actually roll it out, is strictly sequential. It is not a menu you pick and choose from.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? The newsletter breaks this down into 7 explicitly gated stages.
Yes, 7 stages. And understanding the logic behind the sequence is how you avoid that 10-year IT nightmare you mentioned.
Right.
You start with discovery, capturing how the business currently operates.
Naturally.
Then you move to business design. And only after that is approved do you move to memory design, then implementation design.
Wait, so you literally cannot touch the technology or design the memory until you have locked in the business rules?
Exactly. I mean, how can you design a memory state for a process that hasn't been clearly defined yet?
You can't.
You can't. So each stage ends in an explicit, independent readiness review. It's a binary verdict. You are either ready to move forward or you are blocked with a named list of things to fix.
There's no such thing as mostly ready.
Never. Once that passes, you move to build and hand off and finally operate.
That sequential gating protects the business from runaway scope creep. But the timeline is what really stood out to me.
Fast.
According to the newsletter, a typical engagement gets a live, value-generating workflow into production handling real data within a single quarter. 90 days.
Yep, 90 days.
I just still find that hard to wrap my head around given the massive scale of the architecture we just talked about.
It sounds impossible if you're used to traditional chaotic software deployments.
Definitely.
But it is entirely possible because of that extreme discipline up front. It brings us right back to the Navy SEAL saying,
slow is smooth.
Right. Because you go slow in the discovery and business design phases. Because you define exactly what the system is allowed to know and do before a single line of code is written. You can move incredibly fast during the implementation phase.
Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. You engineer a rock-solid chassis, you bake the governance into the nervous system, and then you can hit the accelerator without the car shaking itself apart.
Beautifully said. And that is how you build organizational capacity that doesn't just scale linearly with your headcount. You aren't just making, Bob in accounting type emails faster.
Right.
You're creating a fundamentally smarter, inherently secure organization.
So to recap for everyone listening, if you want to avoid being part of Gartner's 40% failure statistic by 2027, you have to stop treating AI as a scattered collection of shiny copilots.
Stop chasing the tool.
You have to start deliberately building a governed 5-layer operating system. You need the business design, the operating substrate, workflow orchestration, the agent fleet, and the company footprint.
All 5.
And governance cannot be an afterthought. It has to be the nervous system running through it all. We want to thank Red Hawk Technologies for providing this blueprint in Volume 2, Issue 13 of Streamline and Scale. It just provides a level of clarity that is desperately needed in enterprise tech right now.
It really does. And I want to leave you with a final forward-looking question to ponder based on everything we've covered today.
Lay it on us.
So we started by imagining the chaos of hiring an executive without a job description. Well, fast forward a few years. Imagine a reality where your Transform OS has mapped out every piece of accountability. Your independent agents have earned full autonomy in their respective workflow tiers, and the system is executing the day-to-day operations flawlessly.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
If the AI operating system is eventually managing all the actual tasks, how will the very definition of human leadership change?
Oh, wow. That is a profound shift.
It changes everything. When you no longer have to spend your days managing the minutia of the work itself, perhaps the human being's primary job will shift entirely.
Right.
We will no longer need to be managers of processes. Our sole responsibility will be acting as the designers of the future.
From managing the grind to designing the machine, that is definitely something to chew on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.